The Vanishing Keepers of Flannan Isles. The stormy night, December 1900. The Flannan Isles, a cluster of jagged, uninhabited rocks in the Outer Hebrides off Scotland's west coast, are lashed by the relentless Atlantic Ocean. On one of these lonely outcrops, Island Moor, stands a lighthouse, 94 feet tall, its beam a lifeline for ships navigating the treacherous seas. In December 1900, this lighthouse was home to 3 keepers. James Ducat, a seasoned 43-year-old with a warm smile and a family waiting ashore. Thomas Marshall, 40, a jovial man known for his sea shanties. And Donald MacArthur, 40, a tough occasional keeper filling in for a sick colleague. Their job was simple but vital. Keep the light burning, no matter the storms that battered their isolated post. On the night of December 15, 1900, a gale howled across the Isles, waves crashing against Island Moor's cliffs like thunder. The lighthouse's beam cut through the darkness, guiding the steamer arch-tour past the rocks. The captain later swore the light was burning bright, and all seemed well. But sometime that night, or in the days that followed, something unthinkable happened. The 3 keepers, Ducat, Marshall, and MacArthur, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a lighthouse frozen in time and a mystery that has haunted the Hebrides for over a century. The last day's picture. The scene. Island Moor is a desolate place barely a mile long with sheer cliffs and grassy slopes battered by salt spray. The lighthouse, built just 2 years earlier, is a marvel of engineering, its white stone tower standing defiant against the elements. Inside, the keepers live in cramped quarters, sharing meals of mutton and potatoes, playing cards, and tending the oil-powered lamp. Their logbook records the mundane: oil levels, weather reports, and the occasional sighting of a passing ship. They're cut off from the world, reachable only by boat when the seas allow, their nearest neighbours 20 miles. Away on the Isle of Lewis. The last entry in the logbook, dated December 15th, paints a strange picture. Written in Ducat's steady hand, it notes a storm very rough, and mentions the men were quiet, praying. The entry is odd. Lighthouse keepers were practical men, not prone to emotional outbursts in official logs. Earlier entries describe worsening weather. Gales so fierce they shook the tower, waves that seemed to swallow the island. Yet the men were experienced. They'd weathered storms before. What could have unnerved them so? On December 26th, a relief boat, the Hesperus, battled through choppy seas to deliver supplies and rotate the keepers. Captain Jim Holman, expecting to see the lighthouse flag raised or the men waving from the landing, saw nothing but silence. The light was out, a cardinal sin for a lighthouse. As the crew approached, the island felt eerily still. No one greeted them. The landing platform, a concrete shelf above the cliffs, was empty except for a single rope dangling over the edge, swaying in the wind. The empty lighthouse, Holman and his crew climbed the steep steps to the lighthouse, their boots crunching on wet stone. The door was unlocked, creaking open to reveal a scene frozen in time. The kitchen table held a half-eaten meal of cold mutton and potatoes, as if the men had stood up mid-bite. 2 oilskin coats hung neatly on hooks, but MacArthur's coat was missing. The clock on the wall had stopped, its hands frozen at midnight. The lamp was cold, its wicks trimmed but unlit, and the logbook lay open, its final cryptic entry staring up at them. The crew searched the island, shouting into the wind, but found no trace of the men. The east landing, where supply boats docked, was intact, but the west landing, exposed to the worst of the storms, told a stranger story. A crane used to hoist supplies was tangled with ropes, and a lifebuoy was missing. Iron railings along the cliff path were bent, as if a monstrous wave had struck. A wooden box containing ropes, usually stored 70 feet above sea level, was found smashed far below, wedged among the rocks. The Hesperus crew reported their findings to the Northern Lighthouse Board, sparking an official investigation. Superintendent A. Robert Muirhead, who knew the keepers personally, arrived days later. He noted the lighthouse was in order, with no signs of violence or struggle. The men's beds were made, their boots polished, and their personal effects, pipes, books, a whittled wooden figure, were untouched. But the absence of MacArthur's coat and the missing lifebuoy suggested one or more men had ventured out into the storm. Why? And where did they go? The investigation's dead-end Muirhead's report, submitted in January 1901, concluded the men were likely swept away by a freak wave while securing equipment at the West Landing. The bent railings and smashed box supported this, as did the Yum, ferocious storms recorded in the log. But doubts lingered. The men were trained to stay safe during gales, and the West Landing was high above the sea. A wave capable of reaching them would have been unprecedented, yet no other damage to the lighthouse suggested such a force. And why would all three leave the safety of the tower together, against protocol? The island offered no more clues. Eileen. Moore's cliffs were too steep for bodies to remain, and the Atlantic would have carried any trace away. The men's families, back on Lewis, were left with nothing but questions. Ducat's wife, raising their 4 children, clung to hope, while Marshall's sister whispered of curses tied to the island's ancient stones, remnants of a chapel built by St. Flannan centuries before. The island's secrets, the Flannan Isles, have always carried an air of mystery. Local fishermen spoke of Island Moor as a haunted place, where strange lights flickered before the lighthouse was built. Old tales told of spirits or selkies, mythical seal-like creatures, luring men to their deaths. The keepers themselves, in letters home, mentioned feeling uneasy, as if the island watched them. Some speculated the men's final log entry, quiet, praying, hinted at fear beyond the storm, perhaps a psychological strain from isolation. As word of the disappearance spread, the story grew stranger. A passing ship reported seeing the lighthouse's beam flicker erratically after December 15th, though the Hesperus found the lamp cold. A fisherman claimed to have seen 3 figures on Island Moor days later, but no boat could confirm this. The stopped clock and half-eaten meal fueled rumors of sudden panic or something supernatural yanking the men from their duties. The world's fascination. By 1901, newspapers across Britain and beyond ran wild with the story. Headlines called it "The Mystery of the Vanishing Lighthouse Keepers." Some suggested the men had fled, perhaps deserting their post, but their stable lives and devotion to duty made this unlikely. Others whispered of a sea monster or a ghostly force tied to the island's Celtic past. A 1912 poem, Flannan Isle, by Wilfred Wilson Gibson, immortalized the eerie scene of the empty lighthouse, cementing its place in folklore. Over the decades, the mystery-inspired books, radio plays, and even a 2018 film, The Vanishing, starring Gerard Butler. Yet no new evidence has surfaced. The lighthouse was automated in 1971, and Island Moor remains uninhabited, visited only by maintenance crews and curious tourists. In 2025, posts on X mention divers searching the waters around the Isles for clues, but the ocean floor is too deep and rocky for easy answers. True crime podcasts occasionally revisit the case, painting vivid pictures of that stormy night, but the truth remains as elusive as the men themselves. The lingering questions. Imagine standing on Island Moor today, the wind howling, the lighthouse looming above. You can almost see Ducat trimming the lamp, Marshall humming a tune, MacArthur staring out at the Black Sea. What drove them out into the gale? Did a rogue wave claim them, as the official report insists, or did something else, fear, madness, or an unseen force, pull them from their post? Why was the meal left half-eaten, the clock stopped, the logs so cryptic. And if they were swept away, why has not a single trace, clothing, a body, a lifebuoy, ever washed ashore? The Flannan Isles mystery is a story of isolation, duty, and the unknown. It's a tale that feels like it belongs to a ghost story, yet it's rooted in the real lives of 3 men who simply disappeared. The Atlantic keeps their secret, and the lighthouse stands silent, its beams still guiding ships, but never revealing what it saw that December night.